Hey folks, Joe Rogan here, and today we're diving into a topic that's sharper than a samurai sword knife laws. You know, knives have been around for centuries, evolving from simple stone tools to the sophisticated blades we see today. Knives, man, they're essential tools, right? From the kitchen to the great outdoors, they serve countless purposes. We use them for cooking, camping, construction, a million things. They're versatile, indispensable, and let's face it, pretty cool. But they can also be dangerous weapons. A knife in the wrong hands can cause serious harm. That's where things get tricky. The line between tool and weapon is razor thin, because when a tool can be a weapon, governments get involved. They have to balance public safety with individual rights, and that means laws, regulations, and a whole lot of confusion. Different places have different rules, making it a legal minefield. Now, I'm a big believer in responsible knife ownership. It's all about education and respect. You gotta know how to handle these things safely, respect their power. Proper training can make all the difference, but I also believe in our right to own tools, even if those tools can be dangerous. It's a matter of personal responsibility. So let's cut through the BS, separate myth from reality, and explore the wild world of knife laws. We'll look at the history, the current state of regulations, and what it means for you and me. Here's the thing, there's no single answer to what makes a knife illegal. It's like trying to nail jelly to a tree. The laws are complex and often confusing. Knife laws vary wildly from state to state. What you can carry in one place might be forbidden just a few miles away. What's legal in Texas might land you in hot water in New York. It's a legal minefield. Generally, laws focus on blade length, type, opening mechanism, and concealment. Blade length. Many states have specific limits on how long a blade can be. Blade type. Certain knives, like switchblades, are often restricted or banned. Opening mechanism. Automatic knives and gravity knives can raise red flags. Concealment. Carrying a concealed knife without a permit is usually a no-go. Know the local laws. Ignorance isn't a defense, and getting caught can lead to serious consequences. Let's dive into knives that often get the stink eye from lawmakers. These knives are deemed too dangerous or easily misused to be freely carried around. First up, switchblades. They open with a button, making them fast and potentially dangerous. Many states have restrictions on them. Next, balisongs or butterfly knives. Their rotating handles require skill to open, but their intimidating appearance leads to restrictions. Then, dirks and daggers. These double-edged knives are designed for stabbing and are heavily regulated. Lastly, disguised knives. Hidden in everyday objects, their concealability makes them usually illegal. Always check your local laws. Knowledge is power and can keep you out of trouble. The United States, land of the free, home of the confusing knife laws? That's right, folks. Each state has its own unique set of laws regarding knives, and it can be a real head-scratcher trying to keep track of it all. Some states, like Arizona and Tennessee, are pretty knife-friendly, with few restrictions on blade length or type. Others, like California and New York, have stricter laws, particularly in urban areas. It's like a patchwork quilt of regulations, and it can be a real pain in the ass if you're traveling with a knife. You gotta do your research, man. Know the laws of the state you're in, and the states you're traveling through. Section 5, California Dreamin' of legal pocket knives. Let's take a closer look at California, shall we? The Golden State has some pretty specific knife laws, especially when it comes to concealed carry. In most cases, if you're carrying a knife concealed, it better be a folding knife and the blade can't lock open. Switchblades? Forget about it. Unless you're a collector and keep them at home, locked up tight. And don't even think about carrying a dirk, dagger, or any kind of disguised knife. California takes those very seriously. The bottom line is, if you're in California, keep it legal. Stick to small, non-locking pocket knives and keep them visible. Section 6, New York State of Mind, about gravity knives. Now, New York City, the Big Apple. They've got their own set of knife laws, and they're notoriously strict. One thing they're particularly tough on is gravity knives. These are knives that open with a flick of the wrist, using gravity to deploy the blade. For years, there was a lot of confusion about what exactly constituted a gravity knife in New York. The law was vaguely worded, and cops were arresting people left and right for carrying common pocket knives. Thankfully, there have been some recent legal challenges that have clarified the definition somewhat, but it's still a gray area. My advice? If you're in New York, play it safe and avoid gravity knives altogether. Section 7. Texas, big knives, bigger laws. Texas, the Lone Star State. Known for its wide open spaces, its love of barbecue, and its surprisingly nuanced knife laws. It's true, folks. While Texas is generally considered knife-friendly, there are still rules you gotta follow. Switchblades, for example, are legal to own in Texas, but there are restrictions on where you can carry them. And while you can own a sword, you're not gonna be walking around the mall with it strapped to your back. Common sense, right? Texas also has a location-restricted blade law, which basically means you can't carry certain types of knives in certain places, like schools or bars. Again, it's all about being responsible and using common sense. Section 8. Knife Law. Nightmares, cases and controversies. Unfortunately, the world of knife laws isn't just about dry legal statutes. There have been some real-life cases and controversies that highlight just how confusing and frankly messed up these laws can be. There was a case in New York City where a man was arrested for carrying a locking blade pocket knife that he used for his job. The problem? The cop claimed it was a gravity knife, even though it clearly wasn't. The charges were eventually dropped, but not after the guy went through a whole legal ordeal. These kinds of stories are all too common, and they show why it's so important to know your rights and understand the laws in your area. Section 9. Knowing your rights, researching local knife laws. So, how do you stay on the right side of the law when it comes to knives? Knowledge is power, my friends. Check your state's website. Most states have their knife laws posted online. Look for the Attorney General's office or the state legislature's website. Consult legal resources. The American Knife and Tool Institute, or AKTI, is a great resource for knife laws and advocacy. They have a website and a legal hotline you can call, talk to a lawyer. When in doubt, it's always best to consult with a legal professional who specializes in this area. Don't just assume you know the law. Take the time to educate yourself and stay informed. Section 10. A stab at history U.S. knife legislation timeline. Ever wonder how we got into this whole knife law mess in the first place? Well, it's a long and winding road, my friends. Knife laws in the U.S. have their roots in racism and classism. Early laws were often targeted at minority groups and the poor, who were seen as more likely to use knives for violence. Over time, these laws have evolved, but many argue that they still disproportionately affect marginalized communities. In recent years, there's been a growing movement to reform knife laws, to make them more consistent and less restrictive. Organizations like AKTI are fighting for our right to carry tools responsibly, and they're making some progress. Section 11. Stay sharp, stay legal. Final thoughts. Look, I get it. Knife laws can be confusing, frustrating, and sometimes downright ridiculous. But the bottom line is, they're the law. And until they change, we gotta be aware of them and follow them. Remember, knives are tools. They can be used for good or bad, just like any other tool. It's up to us, the responsible knife owners, to use them safely, legally, and ethically. Stay sharp, my friends.